Hello, welcome to another video, and today we're going to be discussing about MLS 2023 season predictions. So, let's begin. So, obviously, this is the beginning of a new season, and obviously with this, it comes with predictions. So, today, hopefully, I won't get any predictions wrong in this video. Obviously, I'm going to say this right off the bat. I'm not an expert in this, so I'm not an expert on MLS. I'm more of an expert on the national team. So obviously, I might know a little bit here and there about some MLS teams, but not that much. So let's discuss about it. So let's start off with the preview for the season. So the preview of the season will be it'll be 29 teams basically, 29 30th oh, shoot. That was a mistake. Okay, so obviously 29 teams. Obviously 30th team will come probably in the next 2 seasons. I think it might come by next season. I think 15 teams in the Eastern Conference, 14 teams in the Western Conference. So there's going to be an unevenness and how the conferences are going to be on how many teams are going to be in each conference. St. Louis SC is going to be the new expansion team, and they're going to be playing in the Western Conference. Nashville is going to be playing in the Eastern Conference, so they used to be in the Western Conference, but Nashville is now going to be playing in the Eastern Conference. So that's going to be something pretty interesting to see. And obviously there might be a new playoff format, and obviously with this it all has to do with the new Apple TV deal. So let's discuss about this possible new playoff format. Seeds 1 through 7 qualify. 8 to the 19s play do a single game play-in. Round one is basically it seeds like 1 through 7 plus the winner of the 8 and 9. They'll be playing a best of 3 series, no ties, straight to penalties. Obviously, round this is going to be very important to see. Round one best-of-3 series, which I think it's a little silly by MLS. I think it's a little bit silly by Major League Soccer. I think they're trying to Americanize way too much the sport here. I get it, they're trying to Americanize it, but let's not do it too much. Let's not do it too much, please. This is the different sport. This is not basketball, baseball, football. This is soccer. Okay, there's U.S. Open Cup, obviously, CCL, and obviously there's the new Leagues Cup, and obviously most of these teams will have to play a lot of games. So obviously, Major League Soccer is kind of doing something irresponsible here with their players, and obviously there's a lot going on here. Obviously, this is a different sport. This is not basketball, baseball, or football. Obviously, this is soccer. So obviously, in basketball in the NBA, they normally play like 4 quarters of 48 minutes. Football, I think it's about an hour. I think 48 to an hour, 48 minutes to an hour. I think baseball, I do not know how much can a baseball game last, but it's normally 9 innings. And obviously in baseball, they don't run around. Obviously, like they do in soccer, it's a lot of more standing around. Uh, Basketball, obviously there's timeouts. I think there's timeouts, so obviously it's not as physically demanding as soccer. And obviously with football obviously there's timeouts. I have played football before in my life, and obviously I know that this is a new sport. This is a different sport to those three. So obviously you can't just be Americanizing it. And football does not have a series. Conference semifinals and finals will be a single game. Hockey, I do not know how much of a hockey game lasts, but I think they have series as well in there. So obviously there's that. Conference semifinals and the conference finals will be a single game. So that's pretty good to see by Major League Soccer that the better teams, like deeper into the playoffs, the better teams will be having to play one game. Because imagine having best of 3 in the semifinals and the conference finals. That's a lot of games. MLS Cup will be a single game as well. Another important thing to note, it will mostly remain the same. The only differences are going to be in the play-in. It's going to be the play-in and the round one, which is going to be a best of 3 series. So obviously, I think the best of 3 series is a little silly, and I think they should They should just scrap the idea. So let's discuss. So missing the playoffs. I made a. I do not know how any of these teams are gonna be playing, but St. Louis as City FC is, I think they're gonna be finishing last. I'm gonna say St. Louis City on paper does not have a that much of a good roster, and I think for most expansion teams they don't play that good in their first season. Let's be honest. So I think St. Louis SC is going to be bottom, and they can go, and from here they can go to is from here up top. So I would see hopefully they do good, but I don't see them. I don't see them doing that good. Houston Dynamo, fuck, Houston Dynamo is so irrelevant. Like Houston Dynamo is that irrelevant? Like the only player I know in there is Hector Herrera, and even then he's not that good in MLS. He's pretty mid. Vancouver Whitecaps again, they're so bad. Sporting KC. Most people are saying Sporting KC might sneak into the playoffs, but I don't think so. I think they haven't made any like very good signings. I think the most relevant part of their offseason was nearly signing CR7, but they missed out. So there's that. San Jose, they have made some signings here and there, but obviously, I don't. I think those signings will make them improve, and obviously with players like Cade Cowell and Nikos Akidis improving, I believe that they can improve here and there, but I don't see them like really be like really posing a real threat to the playoffs. I think they have made some pretty good signings from abroad, but nothing special. DC United again, nothing special. Bottom seed. CF Montreal, I think they're with them signing the Jordan Mihalovic, Alistair Johnson, and Ismail Kone, and amongst other players losing their manager as well, I think this is going to be a really shitty season for Montreal. I think the only important players that I brought in is probably Aaron Herrera. They kept Victor Wanyama. Uh, they're about to sign Alan Senora, but obviously they couldn't for a replacement for Jordan Mihalovic, which is Alan Senora, but they didn't sign him. He went to Liga MX. Chicago Fire. Again, I live in Illinois, and it doesn't like I can be as biased as possible, but I know that Chicago Fire is shit. Obviously, Shaqiri is probably going to be missing like around half the season with injuries, and obviously the defense by itself is going to be falling off. They haven't made any signings. Columbus Crew have lost a couple of guys, and obviously their team is pretty old, so I think they will be missing the playoffs. Inter Miami, they've signed Joseph Martinez and some other guys here and there, but obviously I don't think that's enough for them to really make the playoffs. I think this Inter Miami team is weird. Like this squad looks pretty whack. Uh, They've signed some guys here and there, but mostly their big signing was Joseph Martinez, and I don't think Joseph Martinez can carry them all the way here. NYCFC, they lost a lot of guys during the offseason. They lost their captain, and obviously they have failed to replace Sati Castellanos during the offseason. So see them missing the playoffs here. They obviously lost Sean Johnson as well, so that's their goals are going to be leaking as well. So yeah, now let's do the play-in and the sneaks and the teams that could sneak in into the playoffs. I think Colorado Rapids. I think they're going to be improving a lot this season. I think they have made some signings here and there. A Cole Bassett is returning from loan, so I see them making the playoffs. Minnesota United. I know Emmanuel Reynoso has had some problems during the off season, but I think Minnesota United will resolve that because obviously it's MLS preseason we're talking about. And obviously, I think Minnesota United have a pretty good team, so I don't see them falling off. Real Salt Lake, I know they haven't made any signings, but it's RSL. We all know that they're gonna figure it out. Seattle Sounders, I think they're gonna be sinking in. I think they're not gonna have to deal with the CCL, and I think that's gonna be a good thing for them. They don't have to be playing as many games. Now let's go to the Eastern Conference. New England Revolution. I think they're gonna be improving a lot this upcoming season. I think with their players, they have brought in like Emmanuel Boateng, um, Dave Romney, and Latif Blessing. That's gonna be. I think that's gonna be enough to make sure they go into the playoffs. They signed Bobby Wood as well, which is a pretty whack signing. Nashville. Obviously, I think they're gonna be falling off. This is gonna be the start of a fall off for Nashville. I think their success is going to be depending on how far can Walker Zimmerman and Harvey Mukhtar really take them. It's gonna be about all about that. It's gonna be about how far can Walker Zimmerman and Mukhtar take them, because I don't think like above from that it's gonna be a bunch of average guys, and obviously their team is not that deep. Daniel Levitz, he's not getting any younger, so I think their defense is going to start leaking in. So it's obviously all going to depend on how far can Walker Zimmerman keep the defense together and how many goals can Harry Mukhtar score. So obviously there's that. Charlotte. Obviously they have had a pretty interesting off season. Obviously I think with them signing Enzo Copetti, I think with that's going to be enough to take him into the playoffs. He was pretty good in Argentina, and I think it's going to be pretty good with the. He's going to be pretty. He's going to be a pretty good player in Queen City. Uh, I think their roster looks pretty interesting here and there. I think with a couple of young guys and obviously their fans, I think that's going to be make sure that it's enough to bring them into the playoffs. Atlanta United. So Atlanta United got rid of all the drama from Joseph Martinez. They got rid of all of that he brought to all the negative energy he brought to the table. They signed Georges Giacomo. I do not know how to pronounce that name, but they brought some player from Celtic. They just brought a player from Celtic, and I think that's going to be enough to make sure they go into the playoffs. I think he wasn't that good in the Scottish Prem, but obviously I think that's a pretty good striker replacement, and obviously with some other guys they have signed, I think that's going to be enough to make sure they go into the playoffs as a low seed. And obviously Miles Robinson is going to be returning pretty soon, so obviously that's going to be a plus for them. So there's that. So now let's go to the playoff locks. So these are the teams that I think they're gonna be playoff locks. So obviously let's begin with the Western Conference. Portland Timbers, they signed Evander, which is gonna be a very good signing for them. Uh, Portland Timbers, if they manage to stay healthy, I think they can go even higher. But I think it's gonna be all depending on how far can Evander take them. FC Dallas looks like a pretty interesting team. Obviously they lost Matt Hedges, but obviously they still have other guys like Jesus Ferreira, Paul Ariola, Alan Velasco, and obviously they haven't had a that much of an eventful off season. But obviously, I think they have brought in some pretty decent pieces in. So I think that's gonna be enough for them to be a playoff lock. I don't really see them doing too much noise in the playoffs, but who knows? LA Galaxy, obviously LA Galaxy they lost Julian Araujo, but obviously with that, obviously they have had some pretty good moves during the off season, and obviously they're gonna be having a full season right now with Ricky Puig. So obviously they brought in Tyler Boyd, and obviously they brought in some couple of other guys as well. They brought in Chris Mavinga, looks like which is it counts as center back depth. So obviously I see them. I obviously with the full season of Ricky Puig, I think that's gonna be enough to take them as a playoff lock. It all depends if Chicharito can stay healthy. Really, Austin FC, Austin FC, they brought in some. It's basically like the same roster. They haven't lost a lot. They have made some pretty interesting transfers here and there. I think with their signings, I think there's going to be enough to make sure they're a playoff lock. They have Jazzy Zardes, which at least they have a striker right now. That, on the plus side, they have a striker right now. Um, so next is going to be LAFC. LAFC just lost Arango, but I don't think I don't think that's much of a loss. I think they have a lot of attacking talent. Timothy Tillman, obviously, Timothy Tillman is their new signing. They brought in Aaron Long. They brought Steve Buick, obviously. So obviously, I think there's going to be enough to make sure they're still a playoff lock, and I think they're gonna be locking in the one seed. I think they're just a very, very, very talented team. And next, it's going to be going to the Eastern Conference. New York Red Bulls. I know they just lost Aaron Long, but they have other center backs as well, like Nilis, John Token. I think he's going to be continuing to improve. It all depends whether if not their young players leave during the summer. It all depends on that because if John Token, Daniel Edelman, Frankie Maya leave during the summer transfer window, it might be some bad spells for New York Red Bulls. But obviously, I think they might stay during the whole season. I think John Tolkien's the only guy that I think that has risk of going into a different club in Europe in the summer transfer window. Orlando City, obviously Orlando City were just running Martin Ojeda, and obviously with obviously Facundo Torres obviously playing in a second season. I think they're gonna be a pretty good team to watch. Toronto, obviously Toronto just brought in some key pieces to their defense. Obviously they just brought in Matt Hedges and Sean Johnson, and I think that's going to be preventing goals from leaking in every single week. And obviously with right now with a full season of Bernadeschi and Lorenzo Insigne being fresh, I think Lorenzo Insigne might have an MVP season, which will bring him this far up the table. Philadelphia Union, obviously they mostly have the same squad, but obviously they have made in some pretty interesting transfers here and there, and I think that's enough for them to lock to the 2 seed. FC Cincinnati, I think they're going to be the 1 seed this year. They're going to be having a full season with Matt Miazga. They're going to be having more chemistry right now, and I think with their Brandon Vasquez, and obviously Barreal and Matt Miazga as well, and obviously Roman Celentano is going to be continuing to grow as a goalkeeper. I think that's going to be enough for them to be the 1 seed. Let's go to the season predictions. This is gonna be the cream of the crop. MLS Cup champion, I think, is gonna be either of Toronto FC or Philadelphia Union. I don't think LFC is gonna be repeating. I don't see anybody else in the West actually being able to compete for a title. Uh, I don't think the LA Galaxy can really compete for a title right now. The only team in the West I think can compete for an MLS Cup championship is probably LFC, but I don't think they'll be repeating. Uh, it's gonna be either Philadelphia Union and Toronto. Supporters Shield, FC Cincinnati. I don't think either Philadelphia Union or LFC are gonna be winning Supporters Shield. Obviously, they're gonna be having to focus on the CCL. So I see Cincinnati winning Supporters Shield. So next MVP, I think it's going to be Lorenzo Insigne. I think with the transfers that Toronto made, and obviously if the other players can stay healthy, like Mark Anthony Kay and Jonathan Osorio, and obviously, if Bernadeschi is still going to be playing as good as he is right now, I think they're going to be. I think Toronto's going to have a good, very good season. Alongside with that, I think Lorenzo Insigne will win MVP. Newcomer of the year, I think it's going to be Martin Ojeda. I think with him helping Orlando reaching the playoffs and being a playoff lock, I think Marlon Ojeda is going to be the newcomer of the year. Defender of the year, I think it's going to be Matt Miazga. I think Matt Miazga it's gonna prove that obviously he just fixed FC Cincinnati's defensive issues. So I think he's gonna be defender of the year, Matt Miazga. Goalkeeper of the year, I think it's gonna be Sean Johnson. I think with him solving the issues in the goalkeeping front for Toronto FC, I think he's gonna be the goalkeeper of the year. Young player of the year, I think it's gonna be Jack McGlynn. I think with him being a starter for a top 3 seed in MLS is gonna be enough to ensure him that he's gonna be the young player of the year. And obviously, I think he's because mostly he's U20, obviously, and he looks like a pretty good player to me. Other guys that I think can pose a good threat to him is probably going to be a full season of John Tolkien can win the Young Player of the Year. I'm just saying. Obviously, there's as well other guys that I think that can win it. Daniel Edelman, John Tolkien's teammate, I think he looks pretty good to me. Cade Cowell, obviously Cade Cowell. I think with the way he was looking in the January camp for the USMT, I think he looks like a pretty decent player to me. Uh, but that's uh, how old is Thiago? I want to know how old is Thiago Almada? I really don't know. Uh, Thiago Almada is 21 years old, so I think he can pose a real threat. But I think the fact that he's not American, it might be. I think it might take away from him. But I really do not know who will win Young Player of the Year. That's going to be a very good question to know. So I think that's pretty much about it. I think with all this, I think this is going to be a pretty good season in MLS. And obviously, I hope there's going to be some big transfers from Europe coming in this summer transfer window. So yeah, it was a pretty good video. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.